Welcome everyone. The topic for the day is business communication. We will be talking about business communication, the various do's and don'ts about it, and why business communication is very important in our corporate life. Remember, the many projects fail. In fact, any initiative of the corporate, if actually it fails, it should be attributed at least 50% of the responsibility goes for the poor communication. So the greatest threat, remember, the greatest threat to any great implementations is poor communication. So, and I also believe so that people have become educated, but they are absolutely very poor communicators. They might be very knowledgeable, they might be excellent in their art and craft or in their field of their expertise, but as far as human touch is concerned or human being connection is concerned, they are not good at it. So we often believe that people become educated, but probably people don't get a requisite knowledge about human beings in the first place. And research essentially so shows that if you have to communicate, if you have to be successful, you have to be effective communicator. If you are not an effective communicator, believe me or not, all that you will be having will be tons of knowledge but probably less of understanding. So that is what we are looking into it. Strong verbal, strong non-technical skills are key factor for career advancement. But with it, if you have a fluent communication, it's a heady cocktail. No one is going to stop you from being successful. So we'll talk about the project management communication process, what project communication management is all about it. So what we are talking about here is the planning communications management altogether. So first and the foremost thing is to understand what exactly needs to be communicated. What are the information that needs to be percolated to a particular stakeholder? There might be n numbers of stakeholders, and believe me or not, all stakeholders does not need to know everything. They are in fact not even concerned with the whole of the project altogether. So let us limit the communications, let us limit the information, but be very vibrant to whatever needs to be communicated altogether. Make them paraphrase them, make them understand. So managing communication is all about creating, distributing, storing, retrieving, and disposing of the project communication. Remember, this is what is very important for any of the communication management plan. You should be very concise with it as to what needs to be done as far as creating the information or communication pro channel, distributing the information or communication, storing it, retrieving it, and disposing it to the different stakeholders. Controlling communication is monitoring and controlling project communication to ensure that the stakeholder communication needs are being met. This is very true, and we have to have a channelizations of different communication with different stakeholders altogether. Remember, project communication management is all about planning. It is all about planning. It is all about executing, and it is all about controlling and managing. Now, this starts from this point of time, and actually remember, this finishes when there is a completion of the projects that comes around it. So in the planning stage, the communication management plan and documents needs to be updated. In the execution stage, we need to understand the project communication, the project communication document updates, management plan updates, and organizational process assess management altogether. uh, Controlling communication, work performance information, change requests, project document updates, and organizational process asset updates are required, done. And so we'll talk about the keys to good communication. What are the vital importance? What are the parameters that needs to be met that will pertain that the communication is effective? First and foremost thing, remember, people communicate and a successful manager communicate at least 90% of the time. They are successful because of their vibrancy in the communication and not because of the execution. Believe me, the execution comes up, takes place just because of the wonderful communication that they encourage. Needs to focus on a group and individual communication needs, definitely yes, we need to take everyone at our own shelf. Use formal and informal methods of communication. People have different needs, people needs to be acknowledged, and that's the reason where informal method does comes into play. Distribute important information in an effective and timely manner? Definitely yes. We need to understand those. See, whenever there's a communication, whenever there's a project, there might be different stakeholders, right? And every stakeholders would have different requirement altogether. So let us bifurcate and let us not distribute the whole communication to them, all of them, and they will become confused. That need not be done. Let us channelize them, let us ration our communication for that matter. Set the stage for communication of bad news also. In case something goes, there's a delay, there might be delay in the execution, there might be delay in the payment, there might be there might so many bad things does happen. So please set the stage, please take everyone on board, make them understand actually why something is happening, determine the number of communication channels that we go. Let us understand about the face to face in person communication. Research says 58% of the communication is through body language. Remember, that is what the research says. 58%, that's approximately two-thirds, almost more than half, and approximately two-thirds. 66 would be two-thirds, right? Remember, next 35% is about how how things have been put forward. Absolutely, the process of thinking. And the last 7% is the content, nothing else, or the words. So again, I repeat, 58% is your body language, 37 is the process of putting the word across, or putting the communication across, and 7% is the content, nothing else. So pay attention more, not to the just the actual words that comes around it, but is how they are saying, what they are looking into it, how passionate are they, how angry are they, what are the languages that he or she really feels when he or she is really. And that is what an in-person communication is all about it. Personal preferences. Now there are introverts. Introvert likes more one-to-one communication as a private communication, whereas extroverts would love to boast about themselves in public. They would like to be commended in the public altogether. So please check with whom you are communicating, are what kind of person are they, and accordingly modulate your communication altogether. Intuitive people likes to understand before they actually commit to the big picture, while sensing people needs to go one step at a time. So you need to understand the personalities. Thinker wants to know the logic behind the decision as to why there is a delay about anything, about any communication, the logic. The feeling people wants to know how is it going to affect them as a person. So that is what we are looking at. Judging people are driven to meet the deadlines. They are very passionate about it. They are uh, more into the work arena, whereas perceiving people are people with developing and probably following a set plan. They might not skip any step, whereas judging people might skip a step or two, or probably take a shortcut but ensure that the deadlines have been met. So we have different people, be it introvert, extrovert, intuitive, sensing, thinker, feeling, judging, and perceiving. Now, these are the things that needs to be understood and probably go. Encourage, remember, encourage more face-to-face communications. If there is something called a project that needs to be concerned around it, this is very important. You have to encourage people to make effective projects. So we will talk about it. Stand up meetings for people to focus on what they want to be communicated and what needs to be done. Some companies have policies preventing the use of email. Let's say between certain hours or even certain entire days. Let's say holidays, people are not encouraged to disturb their family life, or we'll talk about the WLB or work life, the case might be. So distributing information in an effective and a timely manner. Definitely do not cook up the contents altogether. One, but do not do not bury any bad news for that matter. Do not suppress anything that has been happening. And if you are suppressing, things might be retorted and you might be at the receiving end. So do not be afraid to report the bad information. Oral communication via meetings and informal talks brings in important content topic, whether it's a good thing, whether it's a bad thing, at least everybody comes to know about it and they come to know on the same page. So that's the thing that that will prevent the rumors from spreading within the company or the project as the. So other communication considerations are, rarely does the receiver interpret a message exactly as the sender intent. So there are distortion. Why there are distortion? Probably there might be noises in the channel. Probably the mood in which the person have received might be not the exact mood that the sender might was looking at it. So we have different requirements altogether. So rarely, it is obviously very rarely, around 90% of the time, intended messages are not exactly the same messages that has been sent it all in the first place. We come to the geographic location and cultural background. Now, this is what the complexity brings it around it. Remember, people might be working on different hours. Some of us might be doing an only night shift. Some are doing a general shift. People might be having a misconception of a language. Probably not everybody is fluent in English or in Spanish or in French. So you might be communicating in one of the languages and the people might not be very accustomed to that language. So there is a language barrier, and there is definitely the cultural barriers that comes around it. People have different eating habits. People have different way to relax and different way to commit themselves. So the way the behaviors has to be taken into consideration. So these are the cultural background that needs to be understood for the complexity of the project. Now, determining the numbers, this is the number if you want the thing. So, the numbers of communication channel is, let's say, the n numbers into n minus 1 divided by 2. So, if you have, let's say, 6 number, 6 into 5 is 30 divided by 2. So, there would be 15 communication channel goes around it. So as the number of people increases, the complexity of the communication increases because there are more communication channels or pathways. Remember, if it is 2, there are 2 people, that 2 into 1 divided by 2. So there is only one channel that comes around it. So there are no confusion at all. So this formula works around it, where is the number of people which actually is involved. So you have two glorifying example as to the number of channels that can be communicated. And believe me, the number of channels, the more the number of channels, the more the chances of getting the message distorted or rumors together. So we have it. Two people, there is one communication channel. Four people, there are six communication channels. See, one, two, three, four, five, and six. So we have this thing. Three people. There are three communication channels that comes around it. So that is what we have been saying it out front. So planning, communication management. Every project management should include communication management plan. This is a very true thing. A document that guides how things needs to be communicated. The communication management plan varies with the needs of the project. As to the complexity of the project, it varies. But believe me or not, certain written dictum is always to be mandated. Small communication for small project, the communication can be part of the team contract that can be related to you. Absolutely, yes, absolutely, team contract, wherein we are awarding the contract to the things. It should be communicated in black and white as to what are the expectations. For large project, it needs to be document altogether. So managing communication is a large part of the manager's job. Essentially, a very big part of the manager's job. Remember, I say a successful project manager would spend 90% of the time only in communicating. Getting the project information to the right people at the right time in a useful format is just as important as developing in the information in the first place. Important consideration, remember, what are they? Is the use of technology. Are we using emails, internet, videos? Are we using a Zoom call? Are we using what kind of technology that we are looking at it? The appropriate method, the performance reporting, and I would say feedback. If you can have as quickly as a feedback, this feedback will tell me how effective my. So using technologies to enhance creating and distribution. Technology can facilitate the process of creating and distributing information when used properly. It is important to select appropriate communication method and appropriate communication media. Did I say you pick up a call, you pick up a phone, and you can communicate, or you can go for a Zoom call altogether, right? So the way you effuse confidence is very important, and that is what the communication is all about. It, you can at the same time record your call, you can at the same time probably write a detailed note in your emails. Yeah, you can always send a fax altogether about the written statement been adjusted. So, classification for communication method. There are essentially three classification. One is interactive communication, where people more than two or many actually communicate via meeting, phone call, video conferencing. It's an effective way to raise concern or probably settle dispute. Then there is something called push communication, wherein it can be one way only, and you might expect a feedback or you might not expect a reply at all, but things has been notified to you. As in push communication is sent via reports, email, fax, or even short messaging services. And then there is something called pull communication. Now in push communication, somebody actually wants you to be uh, getting involved. In pull communication, you want to send a request via, let's say, recipient for the website bulletin. You tell them a plethora of places where the informations are available. In case there are any discrepancies, people can go and probably look at the FAQ sections, or probably look at the website, or probably look at the employee book altogether to understand what is being done and how it is to be resolved altogether. So that's what the full communication. We'll talk about the reporting performances. Now, the performances reporting is very important because it keeps abreast with all the stakeholders. All the stakeholders come to know about where exactly the situation is all about it. So we have the status report, we have the progress report, and the forecast as in future. The status report is actually at any point of time, or at that point of time, where are you? How good, bad, ugly are you people are doing it? Progress report vis-a-vis the standards, and what is your actual things. So vis-a-vis your standards, where have you done? Have you exceeded your standard thing, or have you just been going at par with the standard expectation, or you are just below par of the standard expectation? So that tells me the progress report. And then there is a future forecast, which tells me how things have been going. We need to understand how to ration communication. The main goal of controlling communication is to have an optimal flow of information. The people who need to know should always know. That is what the crux is all about. The project manager, the project team should use various reporting system, various judgment, various meeting to assess how communication have been working. Are people on the same page? Do the work? Are they facing any problem? If there are any problem, the team manager, the project manager should take action, and which requires entire process of planning, managing communication. It is often beneficial to have a facilitated form outside as an external consultant to understand how the communication, are there any gap on what is happening if things are. So let us allow me to suggestions for improving our communication in terms of projects. Number one, have a better developing a better communication skill. One way to do around it is to write an email and follow up with a verbal communication, simple and straight, and then encourage them to get a feedback as in consent wise. Run effective meeting at the end of the day or at the beginning of the day, have a huddle. So that's one thing. Use mail and other technologies all together that comes around it, which needs to be taken into consideration. Use templates for projects. Definitely yes. Templates, absolutely yes. There might be formats that might be given, how the format needs to be filled in as in the as at the end of the day or end. Most companies, remember, most companies spends a hell lot of money in technical trainings as for the technical know-how is concerned, so which benefits the employee more. But believe me, they have been trained to effectively execute the project. So individual people are more likely to voluntarily enroll themselves to understand or grasp the latest technology, because they benefit in the long run. They might be switching careers or switching jobs, or there is a perspective of having a better career even in the existing organization. So it is, you need to upskill yourself. As an organization become more global, remember, as organization becomes more global, improve communication from different people, different cultures, different countries happens, and you need to keep a tab onto it. It is only at the mantle of the leader wherein this communication process. So running an effective meeting, determine, believe me, do not have any unproductive meeting. If meeting is not required, please avoid it, because meeting will only create chaos. So you need to understand before going for the meeting what is the purpose and the intended outcome. Absolutely. Who are the vital people who needs to attend the meeting? Give an agenda to the participants, so they should come prepared as to what has been expected in the meeting, what will be spoken around it, how to respond if they have any issues with it. Prepare handouts, visual aids, give it to them, so this you have said it to them, and as a reinforcement they can go back to their own department offices or at their home at the comfort of their time. They can refer back to the handouts and visual aid, so this acts as a reinforcement altogether. And always act meeting professionally. Set the ground rules, probably switch off your phones, be attentive, and try to build the personal relationships in the meeting. This is a time when you can create a personal the thing. So using email, instant messages, texting, collaborative tools that comes around it. We have a lot of productivity tools that comes around. In fact, many of the corporates would have their own productivity tools altogether. Many corporates have their own intra social media that needs to be taken care. So we have those emails, instant messaging, text. I suppose there might be WhatsApp group also, collaborative groups, basically where you can convey messages. So be sure to send information. Use meaningful subjects. Absolutely limit the contents of the mails to one subject. Be as clear as possible. Be as concise. Be sure to authorize the right people to share, edit your document. Now, what is it? The sample collaborative tools that comes around it is a SharePoint. I said many of the companies nowadays would be have their own productivity applications. Absolutely been done out there. In this application, as on when on things are getting updated, people can always log in and look into it. Now we have another productivity tool that comes with Google Doc. It can be uploaded all together in your drive, and everybody can upload their statement and people can actually watch it as on when on basis. A Wikipedia is a wiki site which enables everybody to contribute, everybody to modify. Absolutely, it's a community driven or community based content that has been going on about it. We have the Kanban boards, which was earlier done, used to be done earlier, still has been practiced in certain manufacturing sectors, precisely more precisely into mining areas, where needs to be done, as in what the progresses have been, where it has been heading, and with this I come to an end of this session. Thank you for watching this video.